Guy uh Guy emails Steve. For some reason I'm not
There we go. Garrett, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dave. Doing well, doing well.
Good, good. It's a little busier today than what we had last week, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, caught a little bit of you know, calm before the storm, I guess. We've had a hurricane, a major hurricane in Gabrielle, and then two candidates on the field, which was two more than we had last week. So we'll see if there's some, we'll see if there's some continued build up here through the next week or so, and we'll see if these two systems, 93 and 94L, actually end up developing. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but there's definitely more to track here.
Two. What did you say? What did you? What did you just say about? You said something good about we have more things to talk about now. A good analogy there. I've been running long
Putting the
mornings.
cart before the horse?
No, before that. Anyways, yeah, let's take this full. Been a busy morning. Let's take this full. There you have it. You have 93 and 94. 93 is the Eastern one. Where do they? Do you know where they got these numbers from? Like, why is 90? Like, do you know where they get the number selection from? If you know.
Um, yeah, I mean, it seems to be for whatever reason 90 to 99. You do it across every single basin.
Yeah.
Um, but it looks like they tagged. Um, it's been a little bit confusing to me where you'd think the lead one would be 93, the back one would be 94, but I think it was just a timing thing where the back system, the trailing system, had more organization earlier on, and so they tagged it 93L, and the front one's 94. Why 94? Why L? I actually don't know that question. I don't know that answer.
Hmm. Who wants to be a millionaire question, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Weather
yeah,
weather category.
93 looks pretty good this morning, I'll be honest. Showers and thunderstorms in the northeast quadrant, but it's always the hardest challenge getting anything on the west and southern sides circulating around the other side of the low, but it looks pretty good. 94, it's actually bubbled up somewhat this morning after a diurnal minimum. Looks a little
Hmm.
bit better, but there is so much uncertainty with 94 as it goes over Cuba in the next few days, Garrett. And really,
Hmm.
well, maybe goes over. It's got to get through Hispaniola first. Then
Yeah.
it's got to get past Puerto Rico, and this is not a common setup, I would say. Garrett, what do you think?
Yeah. My in growing up and learning kind of different forecasting strategies, forecasting, trends, whatever it might be, you know, the common, the common knowledge is that the Greater Antilles, Puerto Rico, the island of Hispaniola, which contains Haiti and the Dominican Republic and Cuba, tend to rip systems apart. That's kind of the general, general knowledge, if you will. Um, but that's not necessarily the case with developing systems. It actually sometimes the convergence of the islands, because there's not much organization, can aid in convection, which is needed for some of these systems to start getting going, as we've seen earlier in the season with 91L. The disturbance we talked about that looked like it was going to develop, and then sort of Lucy pulling the football out from Charlie Brown, it did not develop. Its biggest issue was not having any convection with it. And so while it had a pretty vigorous low level structure, it just opens up and disintegrates, if you will, because there's not enough of the processes of tropical cyclone genesis to get going. So actually, over the next 48 hours, as the wave runs into these islands, that is what will spur on an additional kind of boost to it for development. So in
Mm-hmm.
general, though, it's just such a complex setup. The timing of that is very important. Does it get hung up in the islands? Does it get dragged south? Does it stay over the island of Cuba? How quick does 94L or 93L develop? These are all questions that are going to play a major role in what is potentially the best candidate, best for lack of a better term, best candidate for U.S. impacts of a formidable storm this year. And so we're talking about this in a stage of, an embryonic stage of both systems, but some of the guidance we're looking at in the next 5 to 7 days point a pretty impactful picture if both systems were to develop.
Yeah, the eastern system would threaten Bermuda, and the western system
Mhm.
could threaten the U.S., but
Mhm.
um, we'll see. The question is, how quickly does each develop? I think the faster, whichever one develops the fastest, is going to be the dominant system and could just
Mhm.
take over the show, and
Right.
that's that. And you get Fujiwara. We could do a whole another 30-minute, hour-long
Yeah.
encyclopedia stream of what Fujiwara is. Say that 5 times fast, but
Yeah.
the Google DeepMind 6Z just came in, and it's interesting. It's recurve. I'll tell you what, this model, every run, most of the ensembles agree with each other, but they vary widely run to run. Like the zero
Right.
Z run had a lot more members in Florida,
Mhm.
closer to the Carolinas. Yesterday's 18Z run did what the 6Z run, actually, no, yesterday's 18Z run brought a ton of members into the Carolinas and even South
Right.
Florida. So
Mhm.
it's interesting how um, these AI models work. I think the
Mhm.
DeepMind thinks 93L turns into something fast, and 94 gets sucked out to sea with it, which would make sense if that is what happens. And it's kind of what the European um, 0Z thought about it, Garrett.
Mhm. Yeah, and if at a certain point, you can open up another tab and jump to my X page real quick,
Yeah.
and there's a graphic I posted yesterday. from the 12Z European run that gave a picture of the players on the field. There's really four players. Three of them are corks in the stream. Three of them are heavily influenced. If you scroll down a little bit, um, there you go. The first image there, right, right there. There we go. So there's three players on the field that are influenced that will all influence each other. um, but they're all they vary widely, if you will. The upper level ridge over the top, the strength and the exact positioning will play a significant role in how all of these sort of interact. But the big change probably in those two model runs that you showed with the Google DeepMind, showing sort of a slingshot, if you will, into the Carolinas versus more of a steady recurve, is the interaction with the upper level low feature and the cutoff low feature in the Southeast US. And so these upper level low features are, and you can kind of see this in a yeah, there it is right there, sort of that bulging of lower heights in the Appalachian region. Um, that will vary wildly model run to model run. These are very, fickle, very fickly modeled features, if you will. And so, how deep that is, how much of that energy hangs back, will play a significant role in whether the system is captured by this. This is something that happened with Helene. We talked about this sort of setup last week with if there was a system in the southeast Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America or the eastern Gulf of America, there would have been a similar setup to what we have with Helene because it would have kind of gotten brought in. So all that to say, all three of these features are going to interact with each other. The upper level low and the cutoff in the eastern U.S. is a little bit of a wild card here, where if there's less of one, there might be more of a southwesterly to northeasterly flow that will allow 94L to sort of follow 93L out to sea.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is more of a stronger feature farther west, there will be a weakness, enough of a weakness to the west to kind of pull it back in. But notice this. I mean, that's a very interesting image you're looking at right there, with many more members kind of pushing themselves into the Northwest Caribbean. That will be something to monitor. So again, you got three. I'm trying to think of a good anomaly, but you got three different players that are all going to interact with each other in different ways. It is a unusually uncertain forecast, and we will not. At this stage right now, all we can say is, look, there's a threat in the Southwest Atlantic, probably into the Eastern Gulf of America. The question is, how quick do they develop? How much do they interact? And really, what do they all do in kind of playing near each other? So,
That 6Z European ensemble is really interesting because what if this thing just doesn't get well organized? It just kind of gets carried
mhm,
by the trades. And then it ends up here, like northwest of Jamaica. And
mhm,
then it does intensify because you're going to have really good upper level dynamics for intensification. You're going to have a landfall somewhere from the Gulf at that point. Where that was going to be, we don't even know yet.
right,
Um, you, if you,
right,
94, it's kind of a catch 22. The faster it develops, the higher chance of a Carolinas landfall, and the slower it develops, the higher chances of a Gulf landfall. If it kind of goes in between and if slowly but does develop, it's going to get sucked out by what would be Humberto. So
mhm,
it's a really
right,
interesting
right.
dynamic right now.
Yeah, and this is the first time all season that a wave would get into that region of the basin. So that is an interesting run. That is something to continue to, I think there's two trends here. There's one, certainly a downtrend in the development of 94L at 6Z with the European ensembles. But
Mm-hmm.
with that, there are more members getting this into, the Straits of the Yucatan, the Florida Straits as well, and that just kind of brings in a whole different ballgame. If you go to the European AI ensembles, they are very aggressive on that solution. So, I would like to see I would like to see consistency with the deep mine, but I mean, there are probably 15 to 20% of members that continue westward into
Look
the
at
Gulf.
this. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, all that to say, I mean, look at this spread, from the Yucatan to southeast of Nova Scotia. A lot of uncertainty when you got two tropical systems within 500 miles of each other, all beneath a strengthening ridge. Anything can happen, literally.
It does seem like, I say this now, words before disaster. It does seem like this wave is going to develop. I mean, I think the NHC has 90% in the next
Hmm.
48 hours. I think it could be a tropical depression now. You need an ASCAT pass to confirm that if you do have a low level
Hmm.
center. But I mean, that looks like a bona fide tropical cyclone.
Hmm.
And
Right.
if it is, and if it develops fast, then that does kind of shut off the landfall path, if you will, for 94 along the East Coast. I just passed it completely. Oops, that's 94.
Yeah, it's starting to get, and if you if you go to the visible, you can definitely start to see an improving low level structure. I would say, yeah, I mean, this is very
Oh, yeah.
close to being designated a tropical cyclone, I would think. And so, um, again, I do think 93L will develop first. It just really depends on their proximity to each other. I mean, 150, 200 miles will make a difference. The rate at which 94L develops, its structure, if it's more strung out north to south, it probably will likely get pulled up and be more of an amorphous, um, you know, disorganized tropical system. Versus if it has convection blow up over some of the greater Antilles and it kind of focuses itself somewhere in that area, it's just a ton of uncertainty. I think we can feel pretty good, Dave, about saying this, 93L will not be, an impact to the United States. I
Yeah.
think we can
Oh, yeah.
probably call that. I'm not totally buying, a Fujiwara 50 miles off of the coast of Jacksonville, like the European AI had at 18Z yesterday. So
Yeah.
there's going to be enough spacing between the two where they won't necessarily um, you're not going to get one hurricane go in and then another follow itself. But this was an all-timer of a model run here
Mm-hmm.
where you get the Gold Coast battered and then you have another one slinging in from the northeast and then they merge like it's the day after tomorrow or something off of Hatteras.
Yeah. That would be a bad storm surge event for the coastal
Hmm.
Carolinas and coastal
Hmm.
Virginia and even up into the Northeast. I mean, it gets,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, this isn't going to happen. Again, I
right.
said
Yeah.
seconds
Famous
before
last words,
disaster.
but it's not, yeah,
Yeah.
but not going to happen. So, I mean, what if you know, if you had to make a forecast, right, which is what we should be in the business of doing at times, what's your forecast for 93L? What's your forecast for 94L right now?
I think 93 is pretty well captured by, I think the deep mine does a pretty good job of it here. I think it'll turn
Hmm.
into a major, could threaten Bermuda by the
Hmm.
weekend into early next week. But I mean, 94, this has been the most interesting trend so far in the potential westward shift. That is a lot of members entering the Gulf.
Hmm.
Let me pull up the Gulf. I mean, let's just count here. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like, you've got 25, almost 30% of members entering the Gulf now.
Hmm. Yeah,
And some of them hit Miami as a Cat 1 on Monday. Even a few hit Miami. So,
right. And with that, if you look at the upper levels, uh, 200 millibars, 250 millibars, really kind of where we look at for forecasted shear. Uh, the most favorable, probably the most prolonged favorable environment would be Florida Straits, Southeast Gulf, um, into the Yucatan Channel, right in that region. There, a pretty broad upper level cyclone centered in that region. So it would actually be more favorable than if it sat out in the Bahamas. Um, just something to note there. It definitely seems like there's two distinct camps with 94L. A cluster in the Southeast Gulf, a cluster that ends up following. um, following 93 out a little bit more.
I think it's worth looking at some of the hurricane models. This is the halves. I don't know what is going on with the parent runs of these
Right.
models.
If you go to 93L, it seems to capture at least the track a little bit more of both.
Yeah,
I mean, at least at this run, it's not even capturing
I
94L
thought there was a
whatsoever.
6Z run. I don't know what happened to the 6Z run.
Sometimes the
The parent.
non-parent takes longer to come in. So it seems like, let's see, there's a run. Go to 500 millibars there. Yeah, see, there's a run where it's kind of pinwheeling itself off of 94L and getting closer. Just a lot of weird. Anytime you get two systems near each other, weird stuff happens.
And it begs the question, will the traditional physics based models do better with this
Hmm.
than AI models? Because this
Hmm.
doesn't happen that often, so you don't have a lot of learning that AI models can do off of, past situations like
Right.
this. I don't like the 6Z H-Wharf at all.
Yeah,
I
that
mean, this
one,
this
that
is
is heading
beelining
right towards.
for a North
Hmm.
Carolina landfall Monday into
Hmm.
Tuesday, Monday night into Tuesday. So,
Hmm.
and the H Wharf has been consistent with that the past few days. It, which is bizarre.
Yeah,
Like you can,
there's
I
something going
even,
on here with the parent and just focusing itself on the northern portions of South America.
yeah.
So I would like to see I would like to see the parent because you could tell with the southeast to northwest orientation of the system that very likely it's cutting off the upper level low and backing it southwest, right? Kind of like if you imagine, if you remember, you remember like Hugo in general. You weren't alive for Hugo, neither was I. But
Hmm.
the reason why Hurricane Hugo, for those people, for everybody who lives in the Carolinas, and especially coastal South Carolina, which is a benchmark storm for there, the reason why it kind of slung itself back into South Carolina and kind of moved pretty quickly was there was an upper level low to capture it, very similar to Helene, very similar to how Sandy got captured. So, anytime you see that orientation of the system accelerating as it moves towards the coast, usually it's being captured. And there's really no way out at that point.
Oh, what's going on with the parents here? Even like both 93 and 94, and I can't even look at an older H Wharf model run. Okay,
Yeah.
whatever. Hmm.
Yeah.
Jared
Moving on.
Maloney, a guy I went to college with. He's got some good stuff here. Which one is the one that the 6Z GFS? This is kind of a GIF form of the 6Z GFS, but it might have the right idea. With the question is, does 94 get that far north?
Right.
Because the trend, as we mentioned, with the Euro and the 6Z, is to not get it that far north. Is to have it if 94 stays south of Cuba through Saturday,
Mhm.
if it just doesn't gain latitude here, I mean, all bets are off with what could eventually happen.
Mhm. Right. And we'll find, I mean, it seems like we're going to find out some of those answers here in the next 24 to 36 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Both the GFS, the Spire, which I take a look at from time to time, really consolidate a low-level structure north of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. And if that's the case and it's over the Turks and Caicos, um, this is probably going to be a more of a northern solution. If it's still over, if it still hasn't breached 20 north by the time it
Mm-hmm.
gets to Cuba, it's probably going to get tied up and linger farther to the south and west. So, some near-term trends. I mean, today is a day that you really can start to watch the evolution. And it wasn't until today that 94L was supposed to start gaining some sort of level of organization. So, where the convection focuses, where you start to see maybe a broad area of rotation develop throughout today and into tomorrow will give us a pretty good picture as to what we're going to end up seeing in the evolution of this system.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It will be very, very interesting. I've still got. Where did the visible? Oh, it's still looping. There it is. When do you think they'll classify this as a tropical? I mean, I think they could do it in 39 minutes at 11 a.m. I don't think they're going to, but I think they could.
Yeah, they could. I mean, typically we see by now. I guess we could check the um, we could check the Wisconsin CMISS site. Um, usually there's some sort of marker of classification prior to uh, the CIMS
Yeah,
S,
I'm gonna
sorry.
Google it right
Um,
now.
Usually you see some sort of classification before the Hurricane Center actually becomes official, whether they tag it. I don't see anything yet, so I think they probably hold off, which is interesting because Gabrielle certainly was a interesting early classification of that system, and so I would say this looks a little better right now. So I would say by the end of the day, if trends continue, if it continues to look organized like this, if it gets its act together and doesn't, you'll lose all of its convection late this morning or early afternoon, I'd say probably 5 p.m. Eastern is when they would give classification. That would be my guess.
You've still got some surface adjusted easterlies here
Hmm.
west of the system, so it's satellite derived, so it's not exact. I'm not sure what you did get a scatterometer pass actually, and it's still just a surface trough, so it's still
Hmm.
got some work to do. It's
Hmm.
close, but it's still got
Right.
some work to do.
Right.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's going to be interesting, for the picture of the entirety of the season. If you do get two hurricanes out of this, we will probably get pretty close to back to normal for when it comes to ACE
Hmm.
index, accumulated cyclonic energy, and so um, it will be interesting to see if we get there, given the fact that the season was shut down for 6 weeks.
Hmm.
So we will, if we look up a week from now and we're near to slightly above normal, we're really going to have to take a deeper, a deeper look into is this going to be the norm, with, the climate that we're in right now, that the peak of the season will shut down and the back end is kind of a lock to be, um,
Busy
to
like
be
every
very
day.
active. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you get some satellite derived dry air too that 93 is going to have to contend with as it heads northwest, due north of the Leeward Islands. Um, and 94's got shear to deal with as it heads. If it does head north, it's not
Hmm.
going to get organized until it gets past the Turks and Caicos.
Hmm.
So it's got some work to do to really get its act together.
Right. Yeah, it really just depends on if it gets, like the GFS does, which it has a excuse me, which has a tendency to do is kind of string energy out. It does it during the winter all the time. But if it really just kind of gets, non-focused and spread out, you're gonna get a non-tropical solution or a non, a non compact tropical cyclone solution. You're going to get more, like I said, of an amorphous um,
Yep.
non-factor, if you will. So we will
Mm-hmm.
see. I don't think there's really any model to kind of hang a hat on right now. There's just too much uncertainty across the board, which is kind of a cop out answer, but it's a complicated setup.
Yeah, you're copping out. We get it. We get it.
That's, yeah. Sometimes you got
Um,
to.
especially when you have Fujiwara effect at play.
Mhm.
I think this is the most interesting trend of the past day is all of these members getting west into the Gulf and they make either a Florida landfall or a, Louisiana Gulf Coast Biloxi landfall.
Right.
I
Yeah.
feel like the Carolina landfall is not going to happen. I think you have too many players in the fight here. I'm saying that living in Raleigh and not wanting to deal with a hurricane. So take that with a grain of salt. But there's so many players at here. I think if the Eastern area wasn't a factor, I would be pretty confident saying the Carolinas are going to get hit. You've got the upper level low right over us. You've got almost every factor at play wanting a Carolina landfall, mid latitude wise. but then you've got 93. So that's the wrench that
Right.
throws a curveball into everything. So
Yeah. Um, can I share my screen real quick? Is
yeah,
that going to be possible here?
should be.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Let's see if we can do it. There we go. Can the viewer see this?
we can see you. Hold on. Um, oops.
We're getting two
I
of me.
need. Let me pull. How do I pull? You are sharing?
I am sharing. Yes, sir.
I don't see it.
Okay. I can get off. It's not a big deal. It's kind of it's oh now
What were you
there's
going to share? Can you send me the link?
yeah, no, I was just trying go to if you go to tropical tidbits, I still see
Mm-hmm.
two of me.
You want to see two Garretts?
No, they start.
I've got too many scenes in here. Okay, there we go. Geez, I can
Yeah.
do some.
So go to the forecast models and go to 500 millibar anomaly. And just
Milliball.
and you GFS is fine and go out. See this entire mid latitude. So this is important to note as well. This entire mid latitude sequence is very complicated too. You are getting it's very similar to the to winter weather. Yeah, exactly. You have a low feature, a trough. Um, coming through the northern Rockies. My dad always says, you got to wait until it gets into the plains and then it can see it because you got all this kind of the models struggle in the Rockies because you have so much elevation. So you have an upper level low feature here, kind of a lobe, but then you have another one over the lakes. How this interacts as we go through even the next 24 hours, 36 hours. There's going to be convection later today with this. There's going to be a front with it. There will be some slight changes and differences. And so yeah, exactly. So if you go out to really 72 hours, the general consensus, you're right there, perfect. Now go to previous runs, just loop through previous runs. So yeah, there isn't a ton of change here with this upper level low feature. And in fact, it's become probably a little bit less progressive. If you go back to the current run all the way to the front end and keep looping out a little bit more, stop, perfect, right there. If this feature right here, you kind of see this I think it's 582 decameters. If
Mm-hmm.
that is backed over northern Alabama instead of, over our CEO's house, Jason Deese in Western Virginia, in
Yeah.
Pounding Mill, uh, if that is a little bit farther southwest, there is absolutely an alleyway for this ridge to kind of bridge itself over. 93L, yes, obviously that is another big caveat in this entire deal is how they interact. But if you have a coherent system in the Bahamas and this is farther southwest, that is where the Carolina option still exists. So it just, like I said, not trying to cop out, but I mean, there is just so much at play here. Anytime you're getting I mean, this is a classic hurricane hit pattern for the U.S. is a large ridge of high pressure over Hudson Bay, a 50-50 low south of Greenland. It is this is something that if you didn't have models and you were looking at observations, people 30, 40, 50 years ago would say the East Coast would have to be paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. From the Carolinas up into the Northeast. I mean, there was a run yesterday that brought hurricane conditions up into Boston late next week because of this pattern. It can be tough unless a hurricane gets east enough, which 93 could, to escape out of here. It has nowhere to go. If it goes anywhere close to the East Coast, it's blocked. There's nowhere for it to go here,
Hmm.
especially if this ridge moves east at all. If it retrogrades, which is not common this time of the year, as we get later in the year, you're not going to get retrograding ridges.
Hmm.
There's just so many players at here. I kind of wish 94 was by itself and you could just track one and you knew where one was
Hmm.
probably going to go, probably the East Coast. But now that you have 93, it's like you have two good running back. It's like you're the Miami Hurricanes. You have Mark Fletcher and you have Marty Brown. You don't know which one to use. So you just use them
Yeah.
both and then they just kill the Gators anyways.
Yeah.
So
Penn State's got that problem. You got Nick
big game.
Singleton and you got Katron Allen. I will be at that game. So
Thoughts? Is it game? Are we in the game prediction section of the live stream?
yeah, I think we've gotten there. It's hit the 30-minute mark. There's only so many ways we can diagnose what's about to happen here. And the
Yeah.
answer still comes to the same answer.
especially
We're
in
not
with
totally sure yet.
at 6 days you have this amount of spread. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, game prediction. This is tough because Penn State's in a situation where, and I do a Penn State football podcast with a couple buddies tonight. So this will be maybe a little preview for the listeners of both
Little
the Flash
plug.
live stream
Yeah, a little
and the
plug.
Straight from the Crest football podcast. Yeah. If there are crossover listeners, but, you know, if not now, then when
Hmm.
for Penn State? I mean, they have all the pieces. The big concern and uncertainty is just how pedestrian they kind of looked in the first 3 weeks of the season, given that they were playing teams that could have consisted of you and you have a torn Achilles. So
Well played.
you're at home, you're in a very, whether people think it's a hard environment or not, I've, been there enough times and they're 14-2 in that environment. It's a tough place to play in a whiteout. And so the weather doesn't seem to be much of a factor. Earlier in the week, it was looking like it could have been wet on a natural grass surface, which I think definitely would have favored Penn State because they don't have as many weapons or speed, as much speed as Oregon. But I do think it will be a great football game. It will be dry, good weather. It'll be a hell of an environment. Would like to see Penn State pull one out for once against a top 5-6 team. So, but you guys, Miami, didn't ruin it, but you somehow beating 1-2 Florida at home jumps you to number 2 in the country over my Penn State Nittany Lions. So I'm not really sure
Well,
what that's all about there.
we play legitimate opponents the first 4 months of the
Oh,
season.
right. This is
So
fair.
yeah,
This is fair. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
schedule good games, and we're not like James Franklin who wants cupcakes. He wants to eat,
Yeah.
icing. I get it. I like icing, but you got to have your vegetables too. Sometimes, James, you got to have
Yeah.
you got to hit all 5 food groups, man.
Oh, James, we're on first name basis here. See, if you really knew, it's Jimmy.
Jimmy. Okay.
It's Jimmy.
So when he wins a natty, it's James, or how does that work?
We're not sure yet. We'll
Okay.
cross that bridge when we get there.
If well, there's no
If
win. There's no win here.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe there's a little maybe there's a little Penn State Miami playoff game in the future here. Who knows? And there's a chance we might be sitting next to each other in that one.
The Chick-fil-A
On that
Peach
note.
Bowl in Atlanta.
Oh,
We'll see you there.
yeah. Yeah. I
All
like
right.
it.
Next Wednesday's stream could be very interesting. Maybe we'll have to
Yeah.
do a emergency weekend stream this weekend. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows? Either
Mm-hmm.
me solo, landfall Monday or Tuesday, or you and I jump back on here. And I've noticed something on Twitter. A lot of the same accounts we follow for tropical updates and just Andy Hazel. Pick your account.
Mm-hmm.
The engagement on the stuff this week has been low.
Yes.
I'm worried that if something does happen here and then we head into the weekend, people are going to wake up on Monday being like,
What the
hurricane.
heck? Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow, like, people are not going to know what's going on
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's October now and hurricane season's been dead. Like, it's over. What do I need to be concerned about?
Mm-hmm.
Except the 1 year anniversary of Helene is on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. And then we're still weeks out from a Milton.
mhm.
So, and people, from a modeling perspective, because it gives kind of a chronological, perspective of things. I mean, it wasn't until 3 days prior that there really was a strong model signal and ended up, topping out at one of the strongest hurricanes we've ever seen in the Gulf. And so,
Yeah.
this is not over. We're starting to see, some individual model runs. There's going to be a big high pressure over the Western Atlantic, sorry, the Eastern U.S. That's going to bring in some strong easterly flow, with some westerly flow underneath. You're going to have a broad cyclonic, look to things in the Western Caribbean. When that happens, you have to watch out for energy bundling and the potential for a any sort of system you can name since 2005 developing in the Western Caribbean and then pulling itself up into the Gulf. So that's a great observation, though. I've noticed that on some of my own posts, things that were getting, 200, 300 likes, 50,000 views in July and early August are getting, a tenth of that, a quarter of that. Probably because when the season shuts down for 6 months and everybody's like, oh, well, it's over. They don't engage with it anymore. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's not the case by this weekend. We're able to kind of draw enough attention to what might happen, but we'll have to see.
It's a little concerning, honestly, with just
Hmm.
how I get like there hasn't been anything that's happened. I get it.
Hmm.
Like, I wouldn't really
Yeah.
care either. But
Right.
now we have a legit threat potentially.
Right.
So
Right.
it's going to be real
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
And
For
now the
sure.
6Z model runs think this could be a Gulf.
Yeah.
Humberto could curve out to sea, and Imelda could head into the Gulf and hit Florida. So,
Right.
hey, you know what name is two names after Imelda?
Hijk. K storm. I don't know.
It's going to break the internet.
Oh, Karen. Karen.
And they say it's going to be a backloaded season.
Could be Karen. My wife Rebecca, who spells her name the same way that the Hurricane Center has spelled Rebecca, which is a rare way to say it. To
With a
spell it with
K?
an H at the end and a K in the middle. Yes, she's been pumped to try to get to the R storm, and I'm like, I don't know if it's going to happen.
Let's not play that game.
You're really gonna need a flurry at the end. So,
That's right. Do we stay
yep.
on the air until the GFS comes out in an hour and a half?
I wish this was the only responsibility I had at this company, but unfortunately, it is not.
Yeah, I've got to hang a couple TVs. So, yeah,
There we go.
great.
Cool.
There
Cool.
it is. All right. Here we go. Most legitimate threat thus far this hurricane season. I mean, we had Chantal back in July, which was bad here in central North Carolina. That's one that kind of came out of nowhere too with a frontal boundary. But that was a tropical storm. We could be talking about a hurricane threat to the East Coast or the Gulf or Florida in just a few days. We'll have live updates as warranted and daily shorts on our YouTube, TikTok, across social media platforms. For Garrett, I'm Dave. We'll see you next.